Funding for this edition of Think Tank with Steve Adubato has been provided by PSE&G, committed to providing safe, reliable energy now and in the future. ADP, a comprehensive provider of human resources technology and services. The Fidelco Group, the Northward Center, NJIT, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, New Jersey Resources, MD Advantage Insurance Company of New Jersey, and by Adler Aphasia Center, offering therapeutic programming for stroke and brain injury survivors with aphasia. Promotional support provided by NJ.com, Small News, Big News, True Jersey, and by ROINJ, informing and connecting businesses in New Jersey.
Welcome to Think Tank. I'm Steve Adubato, where we talk to big thinkers, people with important things to say about issues and challenges in our society that matter a great deal. We're pleased to welcome Michelle Pullaro, who is the Chief Administrative Officer of an organization called Per Scholas.
Per Scholas.
What is Per Scholas?
Per Scholas is a technology nonprofit that opens doors to technology careers for individuals in overlooked communities.
Why is that so important?
The tech sector is booming tremendously, and there are a lot of people that are just shut out of the tech ecosystem. And so Per Scholas is really there to be that gap for individuals that don't have access to the education or the opportunities to get jobs in the tech sector.
So break this down a little bit, Michelle.
Sure.
How does this happen? By the way, this is a national. You're based where?
We are based in the Bronx. We are in 11 cities across the country.
So it's national in many ways.
It's national, yeah.
Explain to folks what you actually do to get these students who have historically not have had access to these tech opportunities. What are you actually doing to them and for them to help get them ready?
You know what's interesting? The tech skills are a mechanism to get them into the tech economy, but we're giving them a nurturing environment, we're building confidence, and we're identifying individuals that have the intellectual curiosity and the grit and the desire for a better life, but just haven't had the access to the opportunity. College was out of reach for them, possibly financially they couldn't afford it, or they started and they couldn't finish college, and they end up with debt, no degree, and no job. So they come to us, and we're really
Excuse me,
there.
They come to you, by the way, we'll put up the website as we're talking right now. They come to you?
Partnering with community organizations. So right here in Newark, we launched in April, and we...
Per Scholas opened in Newark in
April,
several months back. Go ahead.
Yeah, April 2019. We've been around for 25 years. We've trained 10,000 individuals. But in Newark, we launched in April, and we've trained 75 individuals. And really, the goal is to create local jobs for Newark residents in the tech ecosystem.
So it's so interesting. With our partners, our friends over at the New Jersey Institute of Technology, we just did a Voice Summit. We didn't do the Voice Summit. We covered the Voice Summit there. Everything going on in voice. And the reason I mention this is because you realize there are an incredible number of jobs created to the tech world that's evolving every day, whether it's voice activated in terms of communication and how it changes our lives, so many aspects of this. We can't assume that younger people who are getting ready to go into the workforce are going to have these skills, are going to know how to navigate the system, or are going to be savvy in this regard.
I mean, I think you bring up a great point. I mean, I think one of the things that we're doing now is digging a little deeper into high schools and equipping high school teachers with the knowledge of what jobs are out there. So computer science is coming into many of the high schools, but there's still not the awareness of what jobs are there and what direction they can go. Cybersecurity is a really booming field. And so we're trying...
Cybersecurity, a booming field.
Yeah.
And so that is part of the Per Scholas, dare I use the term curriculum?
No, yeah, absolutely. I mean, our curriculum is based on employer needs. So when we come into a community...
Excuse me, you're responding to the marketplace. By the way, if you're listening on the audio side, Michelle Pullaro from an organization called Per Scholas in how many cities across the nation?
11.
11. It's a national initiative, 25 years. Go ahead.
And so, yeah, we are identifying individuals that will fill jobs that are in the local community. So we're spending a huge part of our time with employers, listening to what their talent needs are today, and also talking to them about what they think in the future. And what they're also telling us is that they can't find the talent. They are looking for diverse talent, and they're not successful at finding that either. And so we actually co-create curriculum with employers and identify where their jobs are going to be today and in the future and build a talent pipeline for them.
It seems to me, Michelle, that there's also collaboration with government. Actually sitting where you are, sitting right now, right here at the Agnes Varus NJTV studio, we had Mayor Raz Baraka of Brick City, Newark, New Jersey. And he talked about his Newark 2020 initiative. What is that, and how is it connected to what you're doing?
Well, I think that was also a great pathway for us to enter under, which is Newark 2020 is ensuring that companies are hiring talent locally in the community.
Right.
And I've done a number of things in Newark and worked with organizations in Newark, and they've always wanted to hire locally. And that's a great initiative. But what Per Scholas does is not just encourage companies to hire locally, but give them the skills. What are the jobs that are growing? I mean, the burgeoning tech economy in Newark is creating all of these tech jobs. So it's not just about hiring locally in Newark, it's training the people in Newark for the jobs that are actually growing in that community.
It's interesting how you say this, because a company, an organization could have the intent, the desire to hire locally.
Totally.
But if the workforce is not trained to contribute to that particular industry, all the good intentions in the world will not get it done. Is that a fair assessment?
100%. And I know that people get often criticized for not hiring locally. And so, but it's really getting to the root of the problem, that the skills that are in that community are not necessarily meeting the demands of the employers.
I'm curious about this, because folks over at PSEG and ADP told us about your initiative and about this initiative. How did you find your way to Per Scholas?
How did I personally find my way to Per Scholas? I think that's an interesting question. I started at ADP. That was my first career, and I really wanted to identify ways to leverage my business skills and give back to the community.
Was Josh Weston there at the time?
Josh Weston was there.
Let's just say that Josh Weston has a very strong connection to public broadcasting.
Yeah.
I'm just going to say that.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, he is still doesn't probably know it anymore. The former chair
of ADP. Go ahead.
Yep. And I grew up with a family who were professionals. And I'm an only child, and I listened to their stories that they had and challenges they had at work growing up at the dinner table my whole life. It bored the heck out of me when I was growing up, but it gave me a foundation that so many individuals don't have. And so really what motivated me to come to Per Scholas is create that kitchen table environment for folks. And not necessarily, the technical skills are a means to an end. We have to find individuals that are passionate about tech. It's usually the people that are the ones fixing the phones for their family. It used to be the ones fixing the VCR or taking things apart in the house and putting it back together. So you have to have that underlying passion. But what these individuals often don't have is A, the skills, and B, the confidence to be successful. And so we're creating that nurturing environment for individuals. We occasionally will train individuals that have gone to college and I still cannot find a career. But when they come to Per Scholas, they realize that the nurturing and confidence building is what is really going to make them successful.
The organization is called Per Scholas. The leader here is Michelle Pullaro. I want to thank you for joining us.
Thank you,
Keep doing important work.
Thank you for
Stay right
your
there.
time. Thanks.
This is Think Tank. I'm Steve Adubato. We're coming to you from the NJTV studio here in New York, the Agnes Varus NJTV studio. We'll be right back.
To watch more Think Tank with Steve Adubato, find us online and follow us on social media.
That's right, he's back. By popular demand, our great friend, Ryan Haygood, President and CEO, New Jersey Institute for Social Justice. How you doing, my friend?
It's great to be back, Steve. Thanks for having me.
So many things to talk about.
Yeah.
I'm going to start with this. You wrote a piece recently on the legacy of slavery, because, and why does it matter?
Sure. So as you know, this is 2019. This marks the 400th anniversary year when 20 or so black people came to Jamestown, Virginia. And so there's really kind of a national conversation happening around this 400-year anniversary, which led then to an institution of slavery embraced by many states across the country. And there's an enduring legacy that followed slavery. And so there's been an opportunity, I think, in this anniversary year to commemorate that year and to talk about what happened from that point forward.
Let's try this. Actually, this will also be seen in 2020. Where are we today? You and I have had so many, I say this all the time, we have so many offline conversations about race and race relations. We further apart than the last time we talked?
You know, I think if there's a theme on the issue of race relations. It is that there is nothing inconsistent about sort of recognizing progress and demanding more progress. So New Jersey's interesting. You know, Dr. King some years ago looked at the country and determined that America was really divided into two Americas, right? So on one hand, he said that kids grow up in the sunlight of opportunity. He said on the other America, young people are perishing on a lonely island in a sea of prosperity. New Jersey, I think, is a modern-day embodiment of Dr. King's two Americas. You know, we are at once one of the most racially diverse states in the country. We're also one of the most racially segregated states in the country. We're one of the wealthiest states in America, but that wealth exists alongside some really punishing poverty. And so, yes, I think it's important to recognize progress, to be sure, but I think, you know, progress is not a destination that you arrive at and then stop. And so I think at the moment we recognize progress, we also do so recognizing the challenges that have endured alongside that progress.
So it's so interesting. People talk about progress, and President Trump will talk about black unemployment lower than ever before.
Sure.
Look at the opportunities that have been there for African Americans. We had an African American president, Barack Obama, 2 terms, very popular.
Yeah.
Why are we devil's advocate, if you will?
Yeah.
So why are we still talking about this?
Well, because the numbers don't lie. The numbers are real, as our colleague Brandon McCoy at New Jersey Policy Perspective often says, you know, math is real. It's especially real here in New Jersey. You know, so New Jersey, as I mentioned, is one of the wealthiest states in America. It's here that the median net worth for white families is $309,000. Steve, this is the highest in America.
And the other one is Connecticut. Go ahead.
But for black families in New Jersey, the median net worth is $5,900, right? So $309,000 for white families, the highest in America, $5,900 for black families. What that means is that black families have 1.9 cents, so fewer than 2 cents for every dollar in wealth that white families have. That number is real, and I think what that number tells us, back to the 1619 question, is that those racial disparities around wealth, there are many others in New Jersey, but that one in particular is rooted in New Jersey's own history with slavery. There was a system of slavery that took root very, very deeply in New Jersey. Many folks don't think about New Jersey as a slave state, but it was. And that modern day disparity in the racial wealth gap is rooted in that history that New Jersey had with slavery.
So stay on this. We didn't bring here to talk about politics, but it is impossible to talk about race. It is impossible to talk about racial disparities. Impossible to talk about the two Americas without talking about the rhetoric of our president, Donald Trump.
Sure.
To what degree has he contributed to helping or not?
Sure. So I think there's no question. I mean, even an objective view has to recognize the way in which Donald Trump has restored white supremacy to the White House. And in doing so, he has empowered sort of white supremacist ideology across the country to take root. Absolutely, and the things he says and the policies he advances.
Wouldn't it be there anyway?
I think it exists in the country, to be sure.
Go ahead.
Which is why you have these numbers, including here in New Jersey. But I think what he's done is he's given voice to that element. So it's a more robust voice. You see it across the country, in El Paso most recently. So I think it's important to focus on the national scene, to be sure, and to recognize in which Donald Trump has, one, restored white supremacy to the White House. There's a battle to fight on the national level. Folks should get out en masse and vote next year to change the national landscape, to be sure. But at the same time, you know, the numbers in New Jersey around the racial wealth gap, around criminal justice, you know, New Jersey, as you know, Steve, has the highest black to white adult and youth incarceration disparity rates. So a black adult in New Jersey is 12 times more likely to be in prison than a white adult. A black child is 30 times more likely to be in prison than a white kid, even though the research shows that black and white folks commit most offenses at the same rate. Those numbers, Steve, existed well before Donald Trump ever took office.
You know, it's one thing for you and I to talk about this. It's one thing to be on public broadcasting doing this right now. By the way, if you're listening on the audio, the radio side, or our podcast, Ryan Haygood is with us, President and CEO, New Jersey Institute for Social Justice. Real quick, 30 seconds on this. You did another show, Chelsea.
Yeah, so Chelsea Handler, a pretty popular comedian, recently did a documentary on Netflix called Hello Privilege, It's Me, Chelsea. And I think it's a fascinating piece because she is a white woman, as folks know, and took on this issue of what it means to have privilege as a white person. So you and I were talking about this before the show, but she and her team really spanned out across the country, from coast to coast, north to south, and had conversations with very diverse audiences around this idea of white privilege and what it looks like and how it manifests itself. And I'll tell you, in New Jersey, what we do with the Institute for Social Justice is think about the way in which white privilege manifests itself in policies and practices and laws.
You know what's so interesting? There are a significant number of people watching us, and some of them, my friends, people I've grown up with, who say, what is Ryan Haygood talking about when he talks about, quote, white privilege? Because there are a significant number of people who say, wait a minute, I'm struggling to pay taxes in New Jersey, my property taxes, I'm getting whacked on the federal level, can't even write off what I used to write off before in terms of income tax, property tax, struggling to pay for my kid to go to school, get my kid into school. White privilege?
Yeah.
And you know that is pretty pervasive, you say?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think one retort I've heard to the piece you mentioned, you know, folks will say, Ryan, you talk about 1619. That was 4 centuries ago. And yeah, maybe slavery followed 1619 up through the Reconstruction, right? But I wasn't alive back then. So whatever happened back then, right, is not my fault. And I understand.
Why are you putting that on me, some say?
Argument, to be sure.
Go ahead.
But you can't divorce the racial disparities we have today from that era.
Do you blame working class, middle class, other whites for the sins of those who came before?
Well, you can't, right? So you obviously can't. I couldn't blame folks whose families owned slaves in New Jersey for the act of holding slaves. But I think at the same time, you cannot ignore the way in which advantages have been passed from that era to the present. So part of what drives the racial wealth gap in New Jersey is a inheritance structure that followed from the period going back to American slavery. Even if your folks weren't in New Jersey, wherever they were, if there were slavery, folks benefited from that.
Do you believe in reparations?
Absolutely. I think
you're clear on that.
The root of reparations is to repair, right? So I think what reparations looks like, what it means to repair, is one, to acknowledge the harm of the original sin in this country and in New Jersey,
which is slavery,
and the enduring inequality that has emanated from that moment. So part of what reparations is a reckoning that slavery just didn't end when it was legally over. There was a system that was created that has endured to the present. And if we're serious about reconciliation, if we're serious about moving these conversations to broader policy issues, you have to repair the harm. So part of reparations is creating a system of policies and practices and laws that make people whole where there's been disinvestment.
You know, one of the frustrating things about talking to Ryan Haygood is that I just want to keep talking to him more, and I'm confident you want to listen as well. Thank you, my friend, for joining us and having a spirited and, as always, provocative but respectful conversation.
Great to see you, Steve. Thanks for having the conversation.
Wouldn't it be nice if we had more of that in the country?
Absolutely, and we will.
We will, hopefully. We can pray. We'll be right back right after this.
To see more Think Tank with Steve Adubato programs and to listen to Think Tank with Steve Adubato, the podcast, visit us online at steveadubato.org. If you would like to express an opinion, email us at info@caucusnj.org. Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Steve Adubato, PhD. And follow us on Twitter at Steve Adubato.
Think Tank is pleased to welcome Rebecca Gallanter, who is Executive Director of a great organization called Opportunity Project, and Warren Moore, President and CEO, Children's Specialized Hospital, and Senior Vice President, Pediatric Services at RWJBarnabas Health. Good to see both of you.
See you.
Now, I know Opportunity Project, folks, and to disclose this, I actually hosted one of your recent golf outings. You raised a few bucks there. Opportunity Project, you're at a cocktail party, not that you're drinking, but you're just saying at a cocktail party, someone says, what's Opportunity Project? You say?
Opportunity Project is a wonderful program that serves adults with brain injury. We operate under a clubhouse model, which is a self-empowerment model. And what does that mean? It means that adults come in and they determine what goals they would like to set for themselves post-rehab. So after they've experienced a brain injury, they generally go to rehab for some time, and then they come to us at Opportunity Project.
And Warren, there's been an expansion here because RWJBarnabas Health, a major supporter of NJTV News and also what we do. I've done a lot of leadership development in your organization, so I got to host this event. What is the connection between the two organizations, and how does it change the services, more importantly, provided to those who have serious brain injuries?
Right. So at first, Steve, you might think Children's Hospital and a program for adults recovering from brain injury.
What's the connection?
Right. So for us, I've had the privilege, as you know, to be part of Children's Specialized Hospital for over 20 years now. And getting to know so many of the families that we work with, start to understand the challenges that they face. And there's one consistent challenge that every family eventually will face if they have a child with a special health care need or traumatic brain injury. and that's that transition to adulthood. So for us, we knew that in some way, shape, or form, we needed to start to find partners that could assist these families in that way. And Opportunity Project is the perfect example, and the first example where we're going to partner with an organization to really create that smooth transition as our children that we've treated for so long make that transition to adulthood.
Let's break this down a little bit. I know every brain injury is different. Every head injury is different. But what are most people facing? We had this gentleman, Scott Pullman, who spoke at the golf outing, who experienced a very serious head injury. And over a period of time, he's come back and was able to deliver a presentation, which is not easy in and of itself, right?
Right.
And he's trying to get his life back, trying to get his life back. What are most people facing when they come into your place?
There's a lot of people that come in and they feel a bit lost because they're starting a new life. There's generally the before and the after is generally how people with brain injury refer to their lives. And so when they come to us, they're not sure where to start a lot of times, but they do know they want to move forward and set some goals for themselves. Somebody could come in and completely not even appear to have a brain injury, which is a very large challenge in itself.
So you look at someone and go, hey, I don't see anything wrong with them, but what could be going on?
Right. Many, many deficits could be going on, and it makes it difficult for them to communicate with other people as to the seriousness of what they actually are experiencing. Cognitive, speech, memory issues, many social skills types of issues. They've lost some life skills that they were able to do before, so that causes a lot of frustration. And therefore, because of all of that, a lot of mental health issues as well.
So break this down. What do they need? I shouldn't say they. What do people, because by the way, the number is 1.7 million per year, serious head injury. And that combines stroke as well?
Yes.
Okay, just to be clear, go ahead. What do most need?
So they need a support system that's going to wrap their arms around them. And really, to your point, you talked about every brain injury is different. Really understand what their deficits are, and we have to meet them where they are. And that takes a lot of people. It takes a community. And you know, on the children specialized, on the rehab side, we create that community with family and their friends and our staff. At Opportunity Project and a clubhouse model, that community is Opportunity
Is it
Project.
truly a community?
It truly is.
I mean, it's interesting. I've seen the professionals. They're really good.
Yes.
But those who are members, you call them members?
Yes.
They're there for each other.
Yep.
Yes.
Why is that so important?
From what I've seen, you know, in my short, you know, about 2 years of involved with Opportunity Project now, what I've been able to see is that support that an individual that understands what another individual is going through is very different. You know, our staff are wonderful and they're experts, but only an individual who's also suffered that brain injury can truly understand what that person's going through.
You know, I was thinking about this. Our daughter, Olivia, and I were taking a bike ride recently, and she put her helmet on, and I was getting on the bike, and I did not have the helmet on. And I just hosted this event, right? She literally looked at me and she goes, Dad, you have a hat on. I said, yeah. We're going around the corner. She said, put the helmet on.
Right.
The reason I mention that, other than say put your helmet on, every one of us, regardless of age, regardless of how long you're riding, whatever you're doing, but there are a whole range of reasons why people get brain injuries. Falling off a bike without a helmet is one. What are some of the others? Break it down.
Well, a big one is texting and driving, drinking and driving, and somebody getting hit by a car as a pedestrian, or they've been drinking and driving. There are some risk-taking behaviors that are associated as well. Just terrible experiences that are out of the person's control, something falling on somebody, those types of things. Motor vehicle accidents for various reasons. That's about a third of the total.
Preventable, Warren?
Many of them are.
Not all, but many.
Many.
How? Is it the helmet primarily?
The helmet has been a huge, especially for children. I mean, it's for adults as well. And I have several friends who have fallen off their bike while riding. I've fallen and have my helmet on, thank goodness. But for kids, for such a long time, you know, we didn't have helmet laws. And luckily, the state of New Jersey was one of the first states to adopt it. Way back in the beginning of my career, I was part of this.
Most states now?
Most states now, yep.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and it's made a huge difference in the incidence and the severity of those injuries. And then, there's also injuries that occur through athletics and the awareness in the athletic world, and now that we're testing kids and they have protocols for concussion, all that is making a difference.
The quality of helmets for those who play, our son happens to play football as well.
Yeah.
The quality of those helmets, parents have to make a decision whether you want your kid to play at all, but the quality of those helmets has to change. The protocol for concussions continues to get better, right? And it's not just football, it could be soccer, it'd be a whole range of hockey.
Yep.
Yes.
Right?
Yep. In soccer now, kids don't head the ball, until a certain age. Things like that are making a difference.
Last comments, go ahead.
Well, and taking it seriously when there is a concussion, it's a really good point. It is taken more seriously by coaches, and there's training in place, but informally, people don't necessarily know. It's not out there.
And this is a national issue, which is part of what Think Tank is about, is exposing local issues nationally. Thank you both. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So that is it for this particular edition of Think Tank. And we want to make sure that you catch something else. It's called Think Tank, the podcast. It's on Apple Podcasts and Google Play, where you can hear conversations just like this, but with additional exclusive commentary, only available on Think Tank, the podcast. So watch us here, listen to us online, but way, way, way more importantly, most importantly, make sure you think for yourself. I'm Steve Adubato. See you next time.
Think Tank with Steve Adubato has been a production of the Caucus Educational Corporation. Funding has been provided by PSE&G, ADP, the Fidelco Group, the Northward Center, NJIT, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, New Jersey Resources, MD Advantage Insurance Company of New Jersey, and by Adler Aphasia Center. Promotional support provided by NJ.com and by ROINJ. Transportation provided by Airbrook Limousine, serving the metropolitan New York, New Jersey area.
I think at NJIT there are a lot of smart students.
I came to NJIT for mechanical engineering because with in-state, it's one of probably the top 3 schools for engineering.
It sort of creates a friendly competition where you can learn from them.
It's a great academic school.
I feel I'm being challenged, but at the same time, I love the classes I'm taking.
The atmosphere of being here is like being at an upstart company. It's that same kind of drive, that same kind of passion.